Over the past few years, I've done many general aviation border crossings. I'm now using this new checklist, which I'll expand on in detail, but I initially did not have much of a thorough checklist, and I made a mistake which got me a wrist slap on the Canadian side, but a major mistake on the US side was really stressful to get sorted out. This spooky email came on Halloween Day from Customs and Border Protection, and it was threatening a $5,000 fine. I met Arturo while going through this, and he was a huge help dealing with it. Just so many things to think about flight planning, and then you got this other step that can cause great stress if you screw something up.
We know the stress of eAPIS because there's big fines if you mess up.
He's found the ultimate eAPIS hack, which essentially means no more need for this website. That and my entire cross-border flying process coming up. I'm a Canadian-based pilot, and I do a lot of traveling with the RV-14 that I fly. While it was in the paint shop, I got to take home the first ever Super Patriot Mark I. Patriot Aircraft trusted me to relocate the airplane to Canada for the month, and I had a lot of fun with it, but I did make one mistake on the border crossing. At the time, I didn't have a super thorough checklist for cross-border flying. Trips like this one, where I traveled from Toronto through Detroit, Chicago, and then to Houston to have the airplane on display at the Flight Sim Expo beside a simulator emulating the actual avionics, went smoothly, but the flight planning aspects combined with cross-border flying in a new-to-me aircraft with avionics that I was not familiar with confirmed that my existing system for cross-border flying was flawed. I'd thoroughly planned everything, but I was limited to VFR, and although I'd filed a flight plan, I forgot to activate it, and that triggered a cador on the Canadian side when I arrived. The system I now have in place that I'm going to share with you have made trips like this one where I had crossed the border twice in one day a non-issue.
This is crazy. This airport is literally on the physical border. Like, look at that. The runway is actually cut in half by the border. I've never seen anything like that. You could actually start your landing roll in Canada and end it in the US, which is what will happen for me today because I'm going to have to do the approach from the north. So this is an interesting route. I had to cross the border twice to get to Winnipeg, and now I'm going to have to cross the border during my landing roll.
That's going to be a dedicated episode. For this one, I'm going to break down the planning to get here.
This is probably the coolest place I've had the airplane yet. We are at IAC right on the show line. This is AirVenture 2024.
AirVenture is a must-do pilgrimage for many international pilots. And last year, my passenger was Matt. He's an aspiring private pilot.
The RV with the wigwags, rock your wings. Good rock RV. Continue up the railroad tracks and then overfit. You can start your descent for runway 9.
In this episode, I'm going to do my best to break down my process to make it easy for you to follow. I'm going to share everything you need to know to enter any of the US borders. And for exiting, I'm going to focus on the northern border, and I'll include what you need to know regarding the south. But in all cases, Arturo has come up with a solution to the eAPIS problem. He's an instrument-rated pilot, and I want to give him a huge thanks, and this is not a paid promotion.
So what's up, my friend?
Well, I'm going to do my first eAPIS with FlashPass. So I'm excited to not be doing this manually.
It's a pain to do it the traditional way, so to speak.
So you do need to go to the eAPIS website initially to set up your profile. And then another ridiculous acronym is DTOPS for the Decal and Transponder Online Procurement System. That website is a bit easier to deal with. You just have to renew that sticker annually. So let's start with the assumption that you've got your eAPIS account set up, you've got your DTOP sticker, and your initial planning has included figuring out where you want to cross. And personally, I make an initial call more than 24 hours prior to make sure there's no surprises.
It's mandatory to always call. Sounds strange, but that's the way it is.
So the call I just made is more than 24 hours. I booked it. He put me in the system. He asked me for the tail number. He asked me how many crew. That doesn't count?
No, it doesn't count because you don't have an APIS on file. And number one, and number two, he might not be there, so you might get another officer.
Yeah, I did ask for his name. I'm not going to say it on the call here, but I got his name. So I always do that. So at least I have a name so that if someone I talk to later is like, we didn't talk to you, I can go, well, I talked to this officer on this day. I'm approximately 48 hours away from departing, doing a final weather check, and I'm going to start to think about my actual timing for arrival. With FlashPass, we can do a tentative manifest and not file it yet. So check out how smoothly this goes. Normally, this process is arduous on the website.
Go to the person section, click the plus sign to add a person, and look for the small camera icon in the top.
Got it, from camera. This worked by using a photo of Matt's passport on my laptop screen.
You might have to rotate the iPad 90 degrees to be able to align.
Wow, it worked so fast. I didn't even, I had to rotate the iPad and it was like, done. Okay, save. So that's done.
Now that we have the emergency contact, the pilot, and the passenger, let's go to the aircraft section.
I had this already done. Then I got an exclamation mark.
Yeah, the CVP decal that you have right now is from last year. You need one for this year.
And it's red, so that's pretty hard to miss. Okay. So again, that's the DTOPS website you need to go to, and that's what it looks like when you get it in the mail. All of this information will be expanded on in the description. So I have it. I've got it in my bag here because I haven't stuck it on the airplane yet.
And Steven, the way we know it's from this year is because it starts with 24. Last year's decal starts with 23.
Done. Okay, yep.
Okay, so I'm looking at the operator, that's you, which is correct, and the owner is FlyShops Inc., which is also correct.
Yes. And those are questions that he asked me also on the call.
Okay, so go ahead and hit save.
Done.
All right, so that takes care of the people and that takes care of the aircraft. So let's make a manifest. So now let's start a new manifest from scratch. Go ahead and tap on the right top corner. There's a little square with a pencil.
Got it, yep.
Let's erase that name and let's put something more meaningful. We're going to Oshkosh, right?
Affirmative.
Just put the word Oshkosh, that's fine.
2024 Oshkosh, let's do that.
There we go.
Okay, yep. Oh, I clicked aircraft like instinctively, so I'm going to fill that in. Yep, we'll start filling these things out, right? So departing from Windsor. Personally, I plan to clear customs close to the border because I don't want the stress of weather possibly forcing me to divert. In the case of flying the Super Patriot home, I was VFR on top of a layer that looked like it might have been closing up. But thanks to SiriusXM Aviation weather data, I was able to confirm it was clear at the destination, and in fact, I had to zoom way out to see anything on radar. This is obviously the northern border, but check the description for more details about the southern border and overflight permits. And for the departure report, it's really easy to just work from an existing manifest and create the return leg.
Okay, when you save it, it's going to take you back to the manifest details. You see a little eyeball on the bottom right corner?
Yes.
Tap on the eyeball, please. That's the preview.
Because we don't want to submit this yet.
No, we don't want to submit it yet. So the preview will allow you to check everything before you submit.
Yep, everything is correct, color is correct, that's my info, his info, location same as mine. Yep, this all looks good.
Okay, if it looks good, go back to manifest details and hit save.
So there it is, standing by, so that after I've checked my weather and on Saturday afternoon, I can submit it. So that is way easier than logging into the thing with the sender ID. What's interesting is the sender ID password always expires.
Once you use FlashPass, you'll never have to go back to the customs website again.
Oh, thank you. My God,
Not even to update the password.
Because how often do those expire? I feel like every single time I use it, it would be like, your password's
I
expired.
believe it's 3 or 4 months.
Yeah, because I don't travel that often, so it would be like, again, I have to reset this password?
Yeah, it's a pain.
After submitting, you're going to get an email from both eAPIS and FlashPass as well to say that that has gone through, but you don't have landing rights yet. You need to call after filing for that.
We might want to check what other pilots have said about Detroit Airport. So let's check that out. Go to the More section. Useful links are down at the bottom. Airport reviews by pilots. Look for United States, and let's look for Detroit.
Looks like 4, so I'll add one. I've gone there before, and it's pretty good. Most friendly tower in America. This airport is super useful and easy to land for re-entry. So all handy. One of them is just the customs with the phone number. But again, your app creates easy access to that. And you also have the easy access to the quick reference sheet for most airports, but
right.
KDET doesn't have one yet. So maybe let's go look at the Buffalo one just so I can show people what that looks like, because I know there's one for Buffalo here. Okay, yeah, green fact sheet. And then it takes you to the link online. Yeah, so most airports have one of these, right?
Yeah.
So it's interesting that KDET doesn't.
Those documents are provided by customs, and I'm guessing they will eventually get to that.
In most cases, that data sheet is available, and you get this email after calling to receive your landing rights, and it includes the data sheet. But again, I did not get that after making the landing rights call regarding KDET, but the officer was cool, and I made note of his name in case there was an issue.
So if you open the manifest all the way to the bottom, you should see a green submit button.
Yeah, I was careful not to click
Yeah,
that.
click that button the day before the flight.
So what I want to do is check my weather and make sure my timing is still good, because we don't want to have to change this after submitting, right?
Yeah, well, you can always call Detroit Customs and let them know that you're going to be late or early or whatever.
And then for the landing rights, I know they want to call minimum a couple hours before, but how far in advance is too far in advance for that call?
Well, each airport has its own rules. For example, there's an airport in Florida that wants 4 hours notice. But most airports is 1 hour.
So what if I call like the night before, because I'm leaving at 8:30?
Yeah, so that can also work. I mean, but I would try to call again in the morning, just because the officer might not be there, the one you talked to earlier.
Yeah, that's the one to cover yourself. Just make sure you call after submitting the eAPIS less than 24 hours before. Awesome. Okay, thanks for that. And I know you guys are super hands-on with everybody.
We know the stress of eAPIS because there's big fines if you mess up. So we try to be very hands-on our customers, at least the first time they use the app. Once they use it for the first time, the stress is gone and they don't need us anymore. But for the first few times they use it, and talk to a person. I mean, people these days only talk to machines. We make a point to try to talk to people.
Okay, well, I'm definitely happy to help promote this. This is a non-paid promotion that's authentic because this is a significant source of stress.
Happy to help any customer that wants to join and try the app for 30 days free. No commitment required, so no credit card required.
Awesome. So check the description for details about how to register. And again, I'm not getting paid for that code. I just wanted to share it along with my checklists, which are worded to work for me in my system. So just to be clear, I'm being overly conservative in some cases, such as regarding the eAPIS arrival manifest. I like to file it 24 hours prior when technically it can be filed as early as 10 days prior. So all that to say, my list should be a starting point for people to tweak and make their own. In terms of exiting, I focused on the northern border, of course. I'm putting more expanded details into the description about this. You need to know a little bit about Nav Canada. There is a small fee. It works out to like $20 per quarter, so it's really not an issue. And that reminds me, for the southern border, in terms of entering, there's a flyover permit process, which I'm not really concerned with, as it only really applies to flying deeper into the country before clearing, which is not something I ever do, even on the northern border. And thanks again to Arturo. I want to dedicate this episode to his son, Arturo Jr., who he lost recently.